Good afternoon. Welcome to Getting Started with Teams. My name is Sharon Jackson, and I am a Customer Success Manager in the Federal Customer Success Unit. My team and I cover the entire federal government. We focus on adoption and change management, supporting end users to prepare for and move through change. We want to make sure that you are able to achieve your mission with the Microsoft technology that you will be using. We are excited and looking forward to supporting you as you work using Teams. We want to make sure that the transition to Teams is as smooth as possible for you and make sure that you have all the information and training that you'll need. Some of you may already have experienced using Teams in the CVR and are well on your way to being comfortable using Teams. Those who have not, we have developed this session to support your onboarding. Microsoft has lots of training that's available to support your move to Teams, both virtual sessions like this one, online facilitated sessions, and on-demand sessions. We are also in the process of supporting USACE to build a champions network to support your move to Teams. Today, we will walk you through getting started with Teams, showing you how to use Teams as a hub for communication and collaboration. My colleagues, Luke and Thomas, are going to lead this Teams experience session. Lastly, closed captioning is available for this session. The controls are located in the lower right-hand portion of the screen as displayed on the slide. Please use the Q&A feature available to ask questions and/or to provide feedback about the session. We will try to answer the questions that are asked during the session. However, it's unlikely that we'll be able to get to answer them all, given the number of attendees for the session. The questions, answers, and the video of the session will be made available to you after the session. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you taking the time to sit through this session, and we look forward to supporting you as we move forward. I'll turn things over now to my colleague, Luke, to get started. Luke?
Thank you for the introduction, Sharon, and thank you everyone for making time out of your day for this session. We do want to make sure that this time is impactful and engaging. So as Sharon mentioned, please feel free to use that Q&A space for any questions. We want to make sure that we're driving clarity and really providing details on use cases for how Teams can be used within the USACE environment. So for today's session, rather than using a PowerPoint deck, we're going to be showcasing in real time in a live demo environment some of the capabilities of Microsoft Teams. A few things that I want to discuss before we get started here is why Teams. I know to some degree we're all having to evolve and adapt the way we work during these times. And another layer of change just for the sake of change is not beneficial. So I really encourage everyone today to really have an open mind to the art of the possible. Not necessarily saying you have to use every single component we're showing today, but thinking about the different applications, the documents, and the ways that you communicate and collaborate with your team members currently, whether that was previously at the office or having to telework, and look for Teams as a collaboration hub to really bring all of those processes together into one place. Teams is something that's being broadly used not only in commercial enterprise and education, but also within the federal government space, really for providing telework and really connecting those dots. A recent study a few months ago showed that there are over 75 million daily active users. So it really is being broadly used to connect us in a virtual format. For today's session, we'll be showcasing Microsoft Teams through the web browser. There's also a desktop client, which has additional rich functionality. And lastly, there's also a mobile app, which is a fantastic way to stay connected on the go. As we begin this session, I do want to introduce the navigation. On the left-hand side, this navigation ribbon stays with you throughout the web and desktop experience. If you're using the mobile application, this will be located at the bottom of your screen. Briefly introducing each of these icons, this activity icon will be for managing your notifications. Chats will be for that quick one-to-one or one-to-many quick communication in an instant message format. And then calendar will be for scheduling your audio and video meetings. And we'll get into each of those components in a greater degree as we get started. Where we'll begin today's session is this Teams icon right in the center. And think about this as your home button or really your base of operations for a lot of your work. Within this space, we'll see the different teams that we are a part of. So we can see here that test team and accessibility training are two different teams that we are a part of. We can think about the team as the who, that group of individuals that are working together on a long-term basis for a similar goal. So that could be a specific unit, it can be a specific department, it could be a base, it can be an operation. That group of individuals that you see in your inbox on a consistent basis, that inner circle. And within that team, you have different channels. So we can see that there are a couple examples of channels here, and we'll show the process of creating channels as well. And channels are a way of really dividing up information and being purposeful and having categories for what's communicated within different areas of the team. So rather than all of the information being dumped into one group chat or an extended email thread, we're able to have a group of individuals and be very purposeful in communication about a specific area of the operation would go. A few analogies that I like to use is if you think about the team as a 3-ring binder, you can think about your channels as dividers to put the appropriate information in the correct place. Another example that's often used is if you think about the team as a house, you can think about the channels as rooms. So you'd want to put the appropriate appliances or appropriate furniture in the correct room and have that same thought process as far as communication, documents, and applications within the sense of teams. I do want to show a little bit of the back end as far as the process for creating a team. So for those within a leadership position, understanding a little bit of that process and bringing a team together. Where we'll start is in the bottom left-hand corner. You'll see the option to join or create a team. When you press that, it will take you to this screen here, where you can see any public teams within the USACE environment, or if we wanted to create a team, we can press this icon right here. When creating a team, you have two options. You have the option to create from an existing Office 365 group or a pre-established team, or we can choose to build our team from scratch, which we'll do today for this example. When creating a team, there are two types of teams. You have the option of a public team, which means that it would be visible and public to everyone within the USACE environment. So thinking about things like employee resource groups, onboarding material, training material, things that are general public knowledge. So we can see the teams that were on the outside here. These were public teams within the demo environment, meaning that everyone has visibility and can join. Typically, your default choice for most teams that are created will be a private team. Anything project or operation specific, most times will be a private team. So for our example today, we'll go ahead and create this as a private team. From there, you can choose to give your team a name. So think about the current naming conventions that are utilized within the USACE environment. That could be a specific location, that could be a specific unit, that could be all of those different components that you're familiar with, and you can carry over that current naming convention. For the example today, we'll go ahead and name our team Teams Thursday. For additional context, you can also give a description for what is being communicated and accomplished within this team, if we wanted to give visibility to that. Once we've established the naming convention, in the bottom right, we'll see the option to create a team. Then from there, we can choose to add our initial members to this group. And what we'll notice is as I begin to type within this field, it will give suggestions and narrow down based on your Active Directory. So we'll go ahead and see here that we have a suggestion. And again, as I begin to type, the field is narrowed further. And we can add our initial members to this group. In addition to adding individuals, there is also the option of adding based on a distribution list as well. And once we've selected those individuals, we can choose to press add. And within this space, we can choose the role of each of these members within the team. So you'll notice the role of owner or member. So think about admin or user. Those that are within a superior or leadership or an executive position, you would want to be within the owner role. The general population would be a member. Owners have the ability to have that administrative oversight and manage the members within the team. One thing that I would point out as a best practice is I wouldn't necessarily have just one owner. The reason for that is if that individual is out sick, on vacation, or maybe they leave that specific unit or operation, you lose that administrative oversight. So as a best practice, at least 2 to 3 owners is a good best practice. On the flip side, I wouldn't necessarily make everyone an owner. So I would really base these permissions based on role within the operation. Once the members and roles have been determined, you can choose to press close. And we'll see that our team has been created. Something that we'll notice throughout the Microsoft Teams experience is you'll see these 3 dots. These 3 dots are known as ellipses, and they provide more options. So oftentimes, if there's a feature or a setting that you're looking for, keep an eye out for those 3 dots, and they're a fantastic resource for more features. So we'll go ahead and press that here at the team level, and we'll see quite a few choices. The one that I want to show, again, for those within a leadership or a management position is the ability to manage the team with this gear icon. So we can keep track of those that are owners or members within this team. If this is a larger group, you can search for a particular member, or if someone's recently been onboarded, you can also choose to add a member. And again, remembering that this is a private team, if someone is requesting access, those that are owners essentially act as gatekeepers for granting access to this private team. And next to that, we'll also see settings. And this is a component that I absolutely love about Microsoft Teams because it puts the power in the hands of the user. So instead of having to be completely reliant on a help desk ticket or information services, we have the ability to be very granular in the permissions that we have for our team members. So we can see here within this dropdown, you can choose what features are enabled or disabled for members. So the ability to edit or delete messages, all of those components are available, and it's very easy. All you have to do is quickly toggle on and off the features that you would or you wouldn't like to have enabled. Even components such as team picture, those are some aspects that can be customized easily by a few clicks. Whenever you create a team, you'll see that a general channel has been created. And that's going to be really for the general communication within the group. If we wanted to have specific channels of communication, we can go to this channels page. And in the top right-hand corner, we see the option to add a channel. So maybe if we wanted to add a channel for strategic operations, that can be added here. And we can see that that has been added to our list. Another quick shortcut for creating channels that I do want to show is within the ellipses. We'll also see a couple quick shortcuts here to add channels or add members. So if we wanted to add another channel for communication, that can also be established. So again, rather than having to dump all of this information into the general channel, we can have visibility on the topics that are covered within each of these additional channels. Within each channel, there is a space for posts, and this is where we'll have our communication and conversations. All the way at the bottom of the screen, you'll see the area to start a new conversation. Within that field, you can type a quick message, and press enter, and this will post that particular message. You can quickly identify who posted this message, and there is a time and date stamp as well. One thing that I want to point out is in the right-hand corner, you have the ability to like or react to a particular post. And that is a quick sign of acknowledgement that you've seen or understood a message. And I'll show in just a moment how I like to utilize that with my team. And then below, you'll also notice that there's the option to reply. And this reply is how you can keep this as a threaded, persistent conversation. So rather than having to start a new thread or a separate post, we can have all of our information about a particular topic together. So just as a best practice or user tip, a lot of times first-time users go down here to start a new conversation when we're wanting to reply. Keep an eye out for this reply icon. And I can respond to Thomas here. And this keeps all of that information together. And we can also identify that one of our team members, in this case Thomas, liked this post. In addition to that quick communication, if we're wanting to put together a more extensive message, within the text field below, you'll also see there's a capital A, which is the format button. When I press that, it will open up a lot more text tools that we've become accustomed to. So this ribbon here looks very similar to Word or Outlook. So if we're wanting to put together a message with bold, italicized, underlined, maybe we're wanting to stay organized with a bulleted or numeric list. All of those are possibilities within a team. And in a very familiar setting to Outlook emails, you'll also see that there's the option for subject, just to give a little bit of context to what is being discussed within this conversation. In addition to conversation, within this drop down here, we'll also notice that we have the option of an announcement. And we'll see when I press that, it's a little bit of a bigger text and it grabs a little bit more attention. So if we need to ensure visibility amongst the entire group, we can choose to type in a headline. So maybe if we need to get the attention for a team meeting, we can have that created as an announcement. If we did want to customize, you can change aspects such as the color scheme or customize further with a background image. And we'll notice this field here changed from previously being subject to subhead. And within the subhead, I like having a call to action for visibility. So as we mentioned before, with posts, if you hover over, you have the ability to like or react to a post as a sign of acknowledgement. If we think about traditional communication, if we're trying to get a message across broadly, typically that happens with a mass email blast. And resulting from that mass email blast are typically two scenarios. Either we have no one respond and you're not sure if anyone has seen or read that message, or we have the long strands of reply alls. We have a lot of reply all really cluttering the inbox, and then we have other people coming over the top asking others to not reply all by replying all. Both scenarios are not ideal, so I like having a call to action. And so if we think about if we have a team of 30 individuals, and let's say 20 people like the post and 5 people reply or reach out to me directly, I can be a little bit more strategic in my follow-up and follow up with those last 5 team members. So I like using that as a quick call to action just to ensure visibility on a particular message. Within the body of the post, in addition to the text tools that we showcase, a very powerful tool within Microsoft Teams is the ability to @mention. Very similar concept to tagging within other social medias. So maybe if there was an item such as, please review a particular item, I can press the @ symbol and it will provide suggestions for individuals that are a part of my team. And as I begin to type their name or alias, it narrows down that field further. So maybe if I wanted to say, ask this individual here, Aaron, to review an item, I can select that suggestion, and we'll see the text is currently bold. And when I press the suggestion, it turns to a little bit of a lighter purple text, indicating that Aaron will be notified about this particular post. And again, if we think about traditional email communication, we would have to put this individual, Aaron, in the to line, and then for visibility, we put the rest of our team members in the CC line for visibility. Rather than having to do that, everyone within the team continues to have visibility, but we're being very purposeful in notifying Aaron that an item needs to be completed. So again, really being purposeful in the way that we communicate, giving visibility and also providing a layer of accountability. One user tip that I do want to point out, especially oftentimes .mil addresses can have a long name here as far as for the @mention. A user tip that I like to point out for those, if you want to make it a little bit more personal or informal, we'll see that the text is purple, and if I were to press backspace, this text is still purple. So if we just wanted to use this individual's last name or first name, that can be done. We can @mention even if we're only having a portion of that full .mil title. In addition to @mentioning individuals, if we wanted to get the attention of the entire group, such as for this team meeting, I can press the @ symbol. And again, remember that our team today is called Teams Thursday. And as I begin to type in within that suggestion field, we'll see that the text is currently bold. And when I press that suggestion, it turns to a little bit of a lighter purple text, indicating now that everyone within our team will be notified of this post. A few other aspects that I do want to point out in this top ribbon is typically the default is that everyone can reply to a post. You can also choose for yourself and moderators to reply, maybe if this is a post that you don't want to receive negative pushback or negative feedback upon. In addition to that, there's also the option to post in multiple channels. So if you're overseeing multiple units or multiple operations, and you did want to have repeatability across multiple channels of communication, that can be established really to make the work a little bit more efficient. And once we put together a post, in the bottom right-hand corner, you have the option to send. And this will post this particular message. A couple of visual cues that I do want to point out is we'll notice in the top right-hand corner of this post, we'll see a red circle with a megaphone. And that's a quick visual cue to identify that this message was an announcement. If you see the red circle with an @ symbol, that means that you have been @mentioned within a post. And then if you see the red circle with multiple individuals, that means the entire team has been @mentioned. And then on the left-hand side, this purple bar indicates that this was a message that was posted by you. And if you see a red bar, that means that you've been @mentioned within that message. So those are visual cues on the right and left-hand side indicating what type of post has occurred. And we can see that my team members, Aaron and Thomas, were very quick to like this post, and Aaron was very quick with a reply that she will review. And I can respond here and keep this, again, as a threaded, persistent conversation. And if you did want to have a more extensive reply, you will see the same text options here within the reply if we wanted to format that message. In addition to liking and reacting to a post, if you hover over in the top right-hand corner, we'll see these ellipses at a post level as well. Some of the options include the ability to edit a message. So maybe if there was a grammatical error that needed to be fixed, we can correct that post. And once we're done, we can press this check mark. And the great thing is if an edit occurs, you can see the time of the original post. And if you hover over edited, you can see the time when the revision occurred as well. In addition to making edits, maybe if a communication went out too quickly, you also have the ability to delete a post. And if that was done by accident, you can also press undo to restore. One component that I do want to point out is the ability to edit and delete is at the discretion of the team owner. So where we were showcasing before those settings for membership permissions, the ability to edit and delete can be enabled or disabled at team owner discretion. Another tool that I like to point out is if maybe there's information within a post that you need to reference in the future, or maybe there's a specific action item that needs to be accomplished, you can also choose to save a message. We'll see when I press that, we'll see this bookmark icon right below our profile. And then when I press the profile icon, the third option down is saved. And this would take us to a list of the messages that we have saved within Teams, really to keep track of all of that information. And once we've completed that item, we can choose to unsave that message. So those are some of the capabilities from a conversation and a communication space within Teams, and also the ability to create a team. I do want to make sure that we're keeping track of any questions, so I will go ahead and take a pause. Thomas, were there any questions about posts or creating a team?
Hey, Luke, there are no current questions at this time. You can continue from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. And again, if there are any questions, please feel free to utilize the Q&A. We have a number of subject matter experts supporting, and we want to make sure that we're driving clarity from this session. So the next place that we'll be going to is, in addition to the ability to type communication, we'll see within the text field below, there's also a paperclip icon. And that is how you have the ability to attach a document to a post. So rather than having to send the document via email and having the communication in different places, we can bring that information together into one place. And if a document is attached to a post, it automatically goes to the respective Files tab of that channel. So rather than having to ask our team members to go to a post from a few months prior, it will continue to stay visible within this Files tab. Within the file space, we have the ability to quickly create a new document from scratch, whether that's a Word document, an Excel spreadsheet, or a PowerPoint presentation. Or if we have a document that has already been established that we want to share with our team members, you can also choose to upload a document that's existing. For this example today, we'll go ahead and quickly create a test document just for reference. So for this example, we'll choose to create an Excel spreadsheet. So we'll go ahead and create a Test Teams Thursday spreadsheet, and we'll press Create. And something that's a reoccurring theme throughout the Microsoft Teams experience is really bringing together workflows. So rather than taking us to a pop-out window or a separate application, we have the same Excel or Word that we're familiar with, but it's keeping it all together in one place. So we'll see within this ribbon here, a lot of the tools and fields that we're familiar with within Excel, but we're able to stay within the Microsoft Teams experience. In addition to being able to view or edit this document, a component that I like to point out, especially within this telework space, is the ability to live co-author. So we can see in the top right-hand corner that Thomas is currently in this document with me. So you can see the name or alias and their location. If we think about traditional collaboration, typically that would happen with emailing a document back and forth for an extended period of time. Then that brings the questions of who has the latest version and what the latest version of the document is. Or if we think about if we were in person, we would all have to gather together in a meeting or conference room. The great thing with this is we're able to have that traditional functionality of Excel, but we're able to collaborate together in real time. So we can go ahead and open this document, make edits, make revisions, together at the same time, and you can quickly identify who is where within this document. In addition to making edits and revisions, for those that are within a leadership position, you may not be the one that's making the edits. So if you did want to give feedback for areas of improvement, you can also leave something called comments. And these comments live within the document. So maybe if there was a specific area of this document that needed to be reviewed, we can choose to add this comment here. We'll see this purple icon and then also a comment box here, indicating that a comment has occurred, and we can also have dialogue with our team members here, and it does identify the location. So yet another way of collaborating. In addition to the comments that live in the document, we can also start a conversation within our team's channel. So let's say that we've been working through this document for a few weeks or a month. We've left comments, we've made those revisions, and then it's time to submit this document. Please submit. Just as we've shown before, if we wanted to @mention a particular individual, I can choose to @mention Thomas that he needs to submit this item. And just for visibility on what this would look like in the channel, I'll go ahead and close, and I'll go back to posts. And we can see here within the channel, we can see this document is here and visible. And we can see below that I've asked Thomas to submit this item. Again, giving that visibility and accountability for the entire group. Within the ellipses here, we'll see that we have quite a few choices on how we would like to work with this document, whether that's editing within Teams, opening up within the web browser, or utilizing the desktop application. We'll go ahead and go back to the Files tab, and very similar to what we're familiar with within File Explorer, we'll have a very similar structure here within this Files tab. So we can quickly identify the file type, the name of the document, when it was modified, and by who. And if we click into this document further, we can quickly view the document if we're just making a quick review, or within this dropdown, we can choose how we would like to edit this document further. And for this example today, we've been showcasing how to edit within Teams. If you are working on something a little bit more intensive, you'll notice that there's also an option to open up in Desktop app. So for quick revisions, it is beneficial as far as being a little bit more efficient within Teams. If you are working with something more extensive, such as macros within Excel, or maybe 3D models within PowerPoint, those are cases where it would be better to open up in the Desktop app. A few things that I want to point out as well within file collaboration is in the top left-hand corner, we'll see that there's a file icon. And then if we were to press info, we have additional context regarding this document. So we have the ability to protect a workbook if we wanted to mark it as read-only or additional restriction on it. In addition to that, there's also an area for version history. A lot of times other cloud providers save multiple copies of the document. So if we've been working on this document for a few months, there may be 20 different copies. And then again, it brings that question of who has the latest version. The great thing with collaborating here within Teams is that it provides version history. So there's one version of the truth. We're able to work together in real time, but we're also able to view those previous iterations of the document. And if needed, we can also restore a previous version. So it keeps all of that information together in one place rather than having a folder of 20 different versions of the same document. So again, from a collaboration and a file management standpoint, you have the ability to co-author in the application that you're familiar with, and you're able to restrict access or see the version history all together in one place. And again, we'll go ahead and close. And again, we showed how to quickly create a new document, or if you have a pre-existing document, that can also be uploaded. And just giving a little bit of context as well, is you'll notice there's also the option to open in SharePoint. And just a little bit of the architecture background here is that the Files tab within Teams channels are actually backed by SharePoint. So for those that are familiar with SharePoint, it's a very, very powerful tool. But the great thing here is that it gives a user-friendly front end with Teams, so we're able to be a little bit quicker and more efficient with our work with that powerful backing of SharePoint. So we're still able to get all of those collaborative features within the user-friendly Teams environment. I know we have covered quite a bit during this section, so I do want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Thomas, were there any questions about anything that we've covered so far?
Hey, Luke. Yeah, there are a few questions here in the Q&A. The first one is, can you watch a file or be notified when changes are made?
Great question. And as far as modifications, you will notice them here as far as when and who the modifications were by. And as we showed within the document, you can identify version history. A little bit further, if you are familiar with SharePoint, there are additional options as far as managing the file. So some of those aspects can be accessed on the SharePoint side. Let's see here. So we'll see a lot of those aspects are available here. But if you did want to be alerted about changes, that can be done within SharePoint if needed. So hopefully that helps answer that question there. And then if you are familiar with the process from in the past, there's also the ability to check out a document. So all of those components that, if you're familiar with that, carry over to that Teams aspect as well. So hopefully that answered the question, Thomas, and feel free to add additional clarity if you'd like.
No, Luke, that was perfect. Thank you. We do have a couple more questions that just came in. The next question is about the files. Is there a way to set the default sort of the file names within the Files pane?
As far as the name for the file or the way that the files are sorted?
I believe it's the way the default sort is attained. So I guess like by name structure, alphabetically, or by program type.
Gotcha. Okay, and that can be filtered here. So if you did want to filter by file type, maybe alphabetic or recently modified, you can sort the order here. And if you did want to build out more of a traditional folder structure, you'll see here that you have the ability to add folders as well. So you can sort based on personal view preference rather than having to do it for the whole team.
Perfect. Thank you, Luke, for clarifying that. Another question is, can we create nested channels/rooms?
As far as creating channels, nested channels, that is something that it's going to be in the context of how it's utilized within your team. So if you have a specific channel for a specific purpose, such as that can be done. That just would need to be communicated with those team members so they're familiar with the purpose and intention for that channel. So if communicated properly, that can occur.
Perfect. Thank you, Luke. Next question is, what happens to our changes if we were to download the document and edit on our desktop with Excel? And the answer to that is if you were to download the document on your device, all the changes that you create within the document are reflected in Teams. And another question was pertaining to that, is everyone editing it, or could there be multiple copies? If you were to edit the document and save a copy on your desktop, then that copy would not be connected to Teams. Therefore, you would only have that copy for yourself. So if you wanted everyone to see the reflected changes that you made within the document, you would want to open that document through Teams using the option Open in Desktop app. And that is all of the questions for right now, Luke. You can continue from here.
Perfect, Thomas. Thank you for that explanation. And It will look similar, but there is a key difference. If you wanted to download a separate copy, that would be here. If you're wanting to utilize the desktop application and reflect those changes and co-author, make sure you click this icon. So different purposes depending on your preference, and that was very well explained, Thomas, so thank you. The next place that we'll be going is really showing how you can optimize your team and channel experience. So we'll see within this ribbon, we showed posts, we showed files. The next place that you'll notice is Wiki. So think about Wiki in a very similar vein to the way that we utilize Wikipedia. So really that open source format to curate information about a specific topic. So if you're wanting to put together maybe best practice or notes or how-tos, those can be added within the Wiki tab if you so choose. Next to that, you'll see a plus icon where you can further optimize your team's experience. So again, thinking about the applications and documents that you work with your team members, tabs are a great way of bringing that all together into one place. And quickly introducing a few of these icons, is we'll see, as we mentioned before, aspects of teams such as the Files tab within Channels is powered by SharePoint. So if you have a SharePoint library that's already been established, rather than having to reinvent that can be connected as a tab. We'll also notice Excel. So maybe if there's a document that we need to continue to have visibility on, we can add this document as a tab. So that test document that we were previously using, and that can be added as a tab here. So all of our team members, instead of asking them to go to a prior post or the Files tab, it can be quickly visible and easily accessible right here at the top of their channel. So we can quickly view, or they can go in and make edits and revisions as well. Currently, this tab is identified by the name Excel, which isn't the most descriptive phrase. You can also press this drop down and choose to rename this tab. So if we wanted to maybe name it something like tracking spreadsheet, that can be added as a tab just to give a little bit more context. And again, the examples we use today as far as co-authoring and adding as a tab, we utilize Excel. The same thing can be done with a PowerPoint presentation or a Word document. The next one you'll notice is OneNote, which is a great way to really keep all of your digital content and note-taking together into one place. Something that we showcase further in our future sessions in doing more with Microsoft Teams is something called Microsoft Planner, which is an excellent resource for those that are project leads or project managers to keep your team organized, up to date, and assign tasks for a specific project. So those are some of the capabilities within Teams channels to really bring together your workflows into one location. And we'll show a little bit more of these tools in future sessions on how those can be utilized. And the great thing with tabs and posts is the communication and the tabs are unique to each channel. So the documents needed for communication would be different than that of strategic operations. So you can really customize that tab experience to put the tools really top of mind for your team members. A few things to point out as well on this space on the left-hand side for managing your team is there is a chevron icon next to the team where you can choose to expand or collapse the channel field. So maybe if we wanted to keep this as more of a tight-knit space, that can be done. In addition to that, maybe if there's a team that we're part of that's farther down the list, and maybe it's your direct reports or maybe a leadership team or executives or superior, and it's farther down the list, you can also choose to drag and drop to sort the order of these teams. So you can put those priority teams at the top of your list. And if you continue to build that muscle of creating teams and using teams, and maybe you don't want a particular team to take up visual real estate, but you don't want to leave, you can also choose to hide the team. And it doesn't delete it, but there's a field here where you can have hidden teams. So you can keep track of communication, but it's not taking up space within your team's area. So those are a few options as far as keeping this area organized and really making sure that you have quick access to the important information. The next place that we'll be going is chat. So again, think about Teams for more of that long-term project, long-term collaboration, and think about chats for that quick one-to-one or one-to-many communication. Interesting study that I read is that email response times are measured in hours, whereas instant message response times are measured in seconds. So for that quick communication, chat is a great way to quickly get a hold of someone. Especially thinking now in the ways that we have to evolve and adapt, especially with telework, instant messaging is a great way to quickly get a hold of someone. If you are familiar with Skype for Business, a lot of the functionality in user interface will carry over, but instead of having to open up a separate application, you're able to stay centrally located in one place. So instead of toggling between Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Skype for Business, all of those workflows that we're using are pulled together in one collaboration hub. So we can see this list is currently put together of our most recent conversations. If we're wanting to initiate a new conversation, next to the search bar, there's a pencil and paper icon to compose a new chat. And if we type within this field here, we can see that it populates from our Active Directory. We can select a particular name. And I'll press enter. And we'll see here that this says starting a new conversation. If I had previous communication with this individual, it would show that here. I can go below within the text field. Some of the same tools that I showed before, the ability to @mention, I can quickly send a message to this individual. Again, indicating time and date. If we were wanting to put together a more extensive message, we can also press the format button, and again, it'll pull up those same text tools. With instant messaging, we also will notice when individuals are typing. So we can see here that Erin is typing, and she has responded as well. So you can quickly see when that response is occurring, and you can quickly identify here if this particular message has been sent, and sometimes you'll also see an eye icon to see if the message has been seen as well. In addition to the quick text, you'll also notice that there's the ability to attach a document, and you can share a document within this chat space, and that will be located within the respective Files tab of this conversation. In addition to that, we'll also notice aspects such as activity, to see when we've worked with this particular individual in the past, and we can optimize our chat experience by adding any important documents to the top of our conversation, just like we showed within the channel space. Another similarity to channels as well is you do have the ability to like or react to a particular message. And for personal messages, within the ellipses, you'll notice those same choices as far as saving a message or editing or deleting a particular message. To supplement the text communication, in the top right-hand corner, you'll also notice the ability to initiate video and audio calls within the Teams client. So again, giving us multiple ways to communicate toward that common goal. Next to that, you'll also notice the option to add people to a conversation. So if I wanted to add someone else to this conversation, let's say I wanted to add Thomas, I can choose to press add. And what you'll notice is that it starts a new conversation. So what I was talking about with Erin is separate than what I'm talking about with Erin and Thomas. So I can send a quick message, and a lot of the tools and functionalities do stay the same. You can see here that you have visibility to who added what individuals to this conversation. And we can see that Erin and Thomas are both typing below. See that they've both responded. One thing to point out as a difference is after there are at least 3 people part of a conversation, if you are the organizer, you do have the ability to remove. But if we were to add people, after there are at least 3 people within a conversation, we'll have a few more choices for adding a 4th. So if we wanted to add a 4th individual, we can choose to not include any chat history. So this would appear as a fresh conversation for this new team member, or we can choose to include history from a certain number of days. So if we want to give them context to the dialogue from the past day, the past week, past month, those are options. And lastly, if we wanted them to be privy to everything that's been discussed, we can choose to include all chat history. And that will, again, be visible here to the rest of the group, so you can see who added what individual and how much chat history was shared. And currently, this group conversation is identified by name or alias, and as group sizes grow, that isn't always the most descriptive phrase for the dialogue that's occurring. So if you wanted to give a little bit more context, there is a pencil icon next to this where we can choose to name our group. So maybe if we wanted to name our group operations team, we can give additional context to the dialogue that is occurring. And currently, this list of conversations is organized by most recent. Within the ellipses at the conversation level, maybe if there's a really top priority conversation, maybe with your superior or your direct team, you can choose to pin a conversation. That would keep this particular conversation located at the top of our list. And just as we showed you have the ability to expand or collapse channels, we can collapse the recent field and just keep those pinned conversations at the top of our list. And if we wanted to unpin in the future, that can be done. Let's say a group is getting too chatty and you don't want to continue to have notifications each time a message is sent. You can choose to mute notifications, so you'll have visibility to the information, but you won't be notified each time. And that will be identified by this gray bell icon with a line through it. And we can also choose to unmute. And if there maybe is a particular item within this conversation that we want to make sure we go back and reference, you also have the ability to mark as unread. It will show this bold text indicating that this is a new or unread message. So maybe it's a quick identifier that we'd like to come back to this in the future. And then once we open it, it will reduce the new chat field down to 3. And one more choice to point out is, as we mentioned before, you have the ability to edit or delete individual messages, but you cannot delete the entire conversation for everyone involved. You have the ability to leave or remove if needed. Something that's an option if you want a conversation to no longer take up visual real estate, so you can choose to hide a particular conversation. That doesn't delete it for everyone, but would no longer be visible within this list. If you were to receive a new message from that group or were to search for that group name, it would populate again. But that is a great way of really keeping the space organized if you would like. So those are some of the capabilities for that quick one-to-one communication within Teams. Again, think about a lot of that quick functionality that you've become accustomed to within Skype for Business. And I know we have covered quite a bit within the section, so I do want to make sure that we haven't missed anything. So we'll go ahead and take a pause. Thomas, were there any questions about anything that we've covered so far?
Hey, Luke, there are no current questions at this time. You can continue from here.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you everyone for the participation. Please, again, if you do have questions, please feel free to post that within the Q&A. The next place that we'll be going to is for scheduling your video and audio meetings. One thing that I do want to point out as well is for those that are familiar with the CVR, this is a component that is different from your CVR account. Your CVR calendar section was separate from your traditional .mil USACE calendar. I'm very happy to point out that this calendar that you'll see within your USACE account will mirror your personal Outlook calendar. So instead of having to worry about forwarding or adding your traditional .mil address, it keeps all of that cohesively together in one place. So anything, again, on your personal Outlook calendar will be on your team's calendar and vice versa. It won't show things that are on a group or a managed calendar, but it's a great way to keep track of what's going on within a personal calendar context. Within this space, you have the ability to toggle to future weeks, and you can also, with this dropdown, choose future date ranges as well. On the right-hand side, you have the ability to view an individual day, a work week of Monday to Friday, and a calendar week of Sunday to Saturday. And if we are at a future date instance, and we wanted to go back to the current day, we can press this today icon in the top left-hand corner to take us back to the current day and week. At the top of the calendar, we'll notice the day, and then on the left-hand side, we'll see the time. And there's this red bar that helps identify the time of the current day. So we'll see the dotted line across previous days, and the red line is filled in upon the current day. For scheduling a video or audio meeting, you'll see this plus icon in the top right-hand corner to schedule. And you'll see a lot of the fields that we're familiar with from our Outlook experience. So if we wanted to give our meeting a title, you can also choose to add your required attendees. So we'll go ahead and add a few team members here. In addition to the line of required attendees, you can also add an additional line for optional. So maybe if there's a superior or commanding officer that doesn't necessarily have to attend, but you wanted to give visibility to, they can be added within this optional line as well. Below, we'll see we have the ability to choose the time and date for this meeting. Typically, it's going to do the next 30 minutes, and it'll be in a 30-minute increment. You can also choose to expand that time period as well. And if you did want to choose a time period customized, maybe outside of the 30 or 1 hour times, you can also type in a specific date time range as well. And we can see that that is customized now. And if you wanted to block out an entire day, that can also be done. Within the suggested field, we'll see a few time suggestions based on the availability of our team members. And if this is a weekly or a monthly meeting, you can also establish a reoccurrence. So if we're continuing to build on content going forward, this is a good best practice. And there's some preset reoccurrences here, or you can set a custom reoccurrence as well. And you can choose how often it repeats and when it ends as well. Something that is unique to Teams is you also can choose to select a channel to meet in. So maybe if we wanted this meeting to occur within the strategic operations channel, that can be done. I'm not going to do it for this example, but that is something that would give context to those team members. An area that we're not using as often right now is location, but if there was a conference room that we wanted to add, that can be added as a location. Then all the way at the bottom, we'll see an area for meeting details. And this is a great place to add your meeting agenda, really giving a little bit of a preview of the topics that will be covered, just to kind of give everyone an opportunity to brainstorm ahead of time. And then we'll see a lot of the text tools that we previously mentioned. So if we wanted to stay organized, maybe with a bulleted or numeric list, that could be done. If we are working across multiple time zones, we can accommodate for that within this drop down here. And a tool that I'm a very big fan of within Microsoft Teams is something called Scheduling Assistant. If we think about traditional scheduling of meetings, typically there are two scenarios. Either we have to correspond with everyone for an extended period of time, or we know our availability, we throw it on the calendar and hope it works for everyone else. Both scenarios are not ideal, so Scheduling Assistant allows us to be a little bit more strategic when scheduling meetings. So we'll see here, we'll see a line for all attendees, and we'll see individual lines for those that have been invited to this meeting. We'll see this purple filled in block indicates that this individual has accepted a meeting at this time and that they indicating that they are busy. If we see the lighter purple color with lines through it, that means that a meeting was sent to them, but they have not accepted. So it is tentative on their calendar. One thing to notice as well is similar to Outlook, it doesn't show necessarily what's on their calendar, but it just indicates that they're busy or tentative. So based on those occurrences, each individual line and the top line for all attendees, we can be very purposeful in picking a time that would be ideal. And each line will show available, tentative, or unavailable based on availability. And then in the top right-hand corner, you can choose if you're viewing work hours of 8 to 5, or if we're viewing the entire day as well, if we're picking a time outside of that time period. And once we've set up the meeting as far as who will be a part of it and that information, we can choose to press send. And again, a key component difference from your CVR account is that all of those that have been invited to this meeting will also receive that meeting invitation within their traditional .mil email address. When you open up this meeting, we'll see quite a few options. So we'll see a few different options for joining. There will be a purple hyperlink here, which will be seen within the email. And you'll also see a join link in the top right-hand corner. You can keep track of those that have been organized or invited to this meeting. And something to point out as well is next to time zone, you'll see something for meeting options. That meeting options can be adjusted before the meeting or during the meeting by the owner. And within that space, you have the ability to choose who can bypass the lobby. You can choose to announce when callers join or leave, and even choose who can present during a meeting, whether that's a specific individual or maybe yourself personally. So again, meeting options can be adjusted here before the meeting. In just a moment, I'll show where to adjust that during a meeting. Once it comes time to join the meeting, in the top right-hand corner, we'll go ahead and press this icon here. And then rather than dumping us directly into the meeting, it takes us into a lobby. It's really to make sure that our settings are set appropriately. So we can choose if we have video on or off. If we choose, we can also have our mic muted or unmuted. If you are entering a larger meeting, as a best practice, I would recommend to make sure that your mic is muted upon entry, especially with a lot of us teleworking. There are a lot more variables as far as background noise. So just in case not to cut someone off, muting upon entry is a good best practice. Next to that, we'll see a gear icon where we can choose to adjust our device settings. So maybe if we have a push-to-talk headset, a microphone or external speaker, we can make sure that our inputs and outputs are set appropriately. And once everything is set, we can go ahead and press this icon here to actually join this particular meeting. And once we've entered the meeting, we'll see this ribbon at the bottom middle of our screen that stays with you throughout the meeting experience. On the left-hand side, there's a ticker indicating how long the meeting has been occurring. We can also choose if we wanted to turn on our camera or unmute. And then next to that, you'll see a box with an arrow, which is how you can share content, especially if we're thinking about more of a collaborative meeting. This is a great way to really provide additional content. We'll see when I open that share tray, if there are any recent PowerPoints that I've worked on within Teams, they would be visible here. If we wanted to browse for a specific document, that can be done by pressing this browse icon. In addition to PowerPoint presentations, you also have the ability to share your desktop or any active window or application. Again, giving more ways to be very, very purposeful in our content during a meeting. One thing to point out is if you are sharing content that includes audio, in the left-hand corner, you'll notice the option to check a box to include system audio. So make sure that box is checked if you are sharing content with audio. Next to that, we'll see ellipses for more actions. So if we did want to adjust our device settings during a meeting, that could be adjusted. Below that, we'll also see the option to show meeting notes. So if this is a weekly or monthly meeting and someone does take meeting minutes or takes note of action items, rather than having to send that in a separate email, that can be put together in one place directly within the meeting. One thing to point out though with meeting notes is that everyone that is a part of the meeting has visibility to these notes. So I wouldn't add something here that you wouldn't want the entire group to see. And within each of these spaces, it's very much that open source format for adding additional content if needed. In addition to that, within the ellipses, if enabled, you also have the ability to record within a meeting. An aspect that is a newer feature within Teams meetings is the ability to raise your hand. And especially with meetings where everyone is coming off of mute, it's easy to accidentally cut someone off during a meeting. So the ability to raise your hand, we can see that Erin has her hand raised next to her profile here, and also within the participant space. That's just a quick indicator that this individual would like to speak next, or they agree with a particular topic. So raise your hand is a great feature. It's very new, and it allows for us to be a little bit more purposeful in how we communicate. In addition to that, if you're a part of a larger meeting and not everyone is coming off of mute, the meeting chat is a great way to continue to have dialogue and keep that active participation and engagement. A lot of the text tools are the same that we're familiar with within chats or channels, and we can continue to have that dialogue and engagement here. To the right of that, we have our participant space, where we can quickly identify everyone that is within the meeting. We can also see who was invited. So maybe if there's a particular individual that is supposed to present or needs to be a part of this meeting, we can press the ellipses and we'll see the option to ask them to join. Yes, we'll give a quick call prompt to them, asking them to join the meeting. In addition to that, if we wanted to invite someone that was not on the initial meeting, we can choose to type within the search field here and add someone else to this meeting. Maybe if we needed to pull in an expert about a specific topic. And then to the right-hand side, you'll see this link icon where you can choose to copy the join information. So if you wanted to copy the link to join the meeting, that can be copied and sent to someone via chat or email if needed. And I went ahead and posted that here in the chat just for visibility for what that would look like. For those that are a part of the meeting, if we were to press the ellipses, if someone maybe has a lot of static or feedback, or maybe they don't realize that they're unmuted, you can choose to mute a participant. And maybe if needed, if someone's disruptive, you can also choose to remove a participant. In addition to that, there's also the choice of making someone an attendee. That means that that individual wouldn't have the ability to mute or remove others or share content. In addition to muting individuals, which you can identify here based on this icon, if there are more than 2 people within a meeting, you'll also see the option to mute all. I would be careful pressing that icon because it does what it says. So if someone is presenting and you press mute all, they may not realize that they have been muted. So I'd be careful pressing that unless needed. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see this check and X icon. And this is how you would manage the meeting options during a meeting. So this screen that we showed before here for who can present and who can bypass the lobby, that can be adjusted during the meeting with this icon right here. And another new component is you have the ability to download the attendance list for those that are currently in the meeting. So those are quite a few options here. And one last thing to point out is you also have the ability to pin an individual. So maybe if you have your superior commanding officer and you wanted to keep them on the screen, you can choose to pin that particular individual rather than cycling out the most recent to speak. And right now we just have Aaron in this meeting. If we did have more individuals, it would split the screen further. So if we had 4 individuals, you would see 2 by 2. Something that is a little bit newer as well is a gallery view of 3 by 3, so 9 people on the screen. So really providing that effective and collaborative space for communication. And once the meeting has been completed, on the right-hand side, there is a red phone icon where you can choose to hang up from this meeting. And you'll notice on the left-hand side that it takes us from calendar back up to chat. We can see that this purple calendar icon here indicates that this was a meeting, and these other icons will indicate that these were one-to-one or one-to-many group conversations. And within this calendar space, this purple bar at the top will indicate that someone is currently in the meeting, and you can see that with this profile icon here. And within this meeting history, we can see when the meeting started, at what time, and then once everyone has left the meeting, you'll see a space for when the meeting ended and how long the meeting was. And we can continue to have dialogue following the meeting. We can see all of the content that was shared. We can continue to have dialogue. If any files were shared during the meeting, they would go to this respective files tab. And if we wanted to reference the meeting notes for any action items or follow-ups, we can view that here within this space. So if this is a reoccurrence, we can continue to build on that content going forward, all together in one place. And the great thing with this as well is, let's say that this was a weekly meeting, maybe it occurs every Tuesday, and we're continuing to have this dialogue with our team members, and we felt like we needed to meet sooner. We can quickly press this purple join icon to jump into a meeting with that group of individuals and build on this content further. To the right of that, just as we showed within chat, you have the ability to manage those that are within this meeting if you're the organizer. So we can choose if we needed to remove someone, or if we were to add people, we can choose what context they have, whether we're not including any chat history, a certain number of days, or all chat history. So that component does carry over to that meeting portion as well. And then all the way to the right-hand side with this hamburger icon, you can choose to view meeting details if you wanted to make any adjustments also. So quite a few options here really for having that effective and collaborative meeting. And this video icon here indicates that a meeting is still occurring as well. So a couple different visual cues that are available. I know we have covered quite a bit of content, so I want to make sure that I haven't missed anything. So we'll go ahead and take another pause. Thomas, were there any questions about anything that we've covered so far?
Hey, Luke. Yeah, there are a few questions here. The first one is, do participants have to be a Teams user in order to join a Teams meeting?
And did they give additional context if that's within the USACE environment or CDR?
No, they did not, but I would touch on both aspects.
Okay. So a couple things as far as clarifications here. Depends on whether you're inviting from your CDR account or within your USACE environment. You are able to join Teams meetings. So if you were to invite here within your USACE environment, you would be able to invite others that are within USACE. Whereas then if you're using your CDR account, you would be using that CDR account to invite others within the CDR environment. So it really depends on who you're inviting. You are able to utilize Teams meetings. So if you were even outside of that, but typically it's going to be within the environment that you're utilizing. So hopefully that helps answer that question there, Thomas, and feel free to provide additional clarity if you'd like.
No, that was perfect, Luke. Thank you very much. And the next question is, can action items in a meeting be assigned to people?
So within the meeting notes, you can add those aspects as far as who owns which area of this action item. You're not necessarily able to assign from meeting notes, but you can always mention within the conversation to give context for who is responsible for an item. And then for assigning tasks, you can always use planner as well. So not necessarily from the meeting notes, but there are a couple other communication techniques where you can choose who needs to complete a task.
Perfect. Thank you, Luke. That is all the questions at this time. You can continue from here.
Perfect. Thank you, Thomas, and thank you everyone for the participation. Please continue to ask questions throughout the rest of the session. And as we continue to build the muscle of utilizing Teams, it's important to be able to manage this space and keep track of the information. So we'll see here, there are a couple of visual cues that are built in. So we'll see that red circle with a 3, indicating that there are 3 new chat conversations, and you can quickly identify those chats by the bold text here and the dot on the left-hand side to see which messages have been unread. If we were looking at the team level, you would see a red circle with a number at the channel in which a new message has occurred. If you do have the desktop client installed, you'll also see a red circle with a number within the taskbar indicating new activities. And then all the way in the top left-hand corner, we'll see this activity icon, so we can keep track of any new messages that have been replied to, reacted to, mentions as well. It is time and date stamp. And if we were to click on a particular message within the feed, it takes you to that particular item. So instead of that individual message out of context, it takes us to that location where we can see what happened before and after, really telling the full story and giving us context to this message. So we can see that throughout the day for those particular items. In addition to your feed, you can also go to your personal activity as well. So if we did want to see any items that we have posted throughout the day, we can click and identify that, and it again takes us to that location so we can see what happened before and after. If we wanted to drill down further, there is a filter icon where you can choose the type to filter, or if we were to press the ellipses, we can search for a particular type of message, whether that's an mention, a reply, or reaction. And a component that we're going to show in just a moment is there's a gear icon right here. And this is where you can choose to manage your notification settings. And we'll show another way to get to this in just a moment and explain it further. The next aspect is there's a search bar at the top of your screen. And you'll notice that this stays with you throughout the web and desktop client experience. And it's a fantastic resource for navigating Microsoft Teams. So if we wanted to maybe search for a particular word, I could type something such as operations. And this will give me suggestions as far as different channels, meetings, or group conversations that use that word. Maybe if I wanted to look for another particular word, maybe something like review, I could choose to search for, and this will indicate any messages in which that word was utilized. If we wanted to filter further, we can search for a specific subject, date range, team, or channel. It will also search for people to find matches, and it will also search for files as well. And within the filter, you can, again, drill down further, searching for a specific team or a particular file type, and even who it was modified by. So again, this search bar is a great way really for looking for content throughout the team's experience. In addition to searching, there are also a few different command prompts that are available. So if we were to press /, it will provide some of the command prompts that are listed here. So maybe if we wanted to search for a particular file, I can press /files, and this will open the most recent documents that I've worked on within Teams, indicating the file type, the file name, and location. So the team and channel name and when it was modified. And I can quickly select this file and it would take me to that file and open it. In addition to that, if we wanted to go to the list of our saved messages, that can be done. And we can even quickly adjust aspects such as putting ourselves on Do Not Disturb. One feature that I like to point out that's specific to the desktop client is maybe if you're getting onto a call with an executive or superior, or maybe you wanted to test your new push-to-talk headset. If you are using the desktop client, you can type in /test call, and it would test your audio, your video, your networking, just to make sure that you're set up for success going into that call. And again, /test call is specific to the desktop client. In addition to the / commands, you also have the ability to press the @ symbol. And let's say that I wanted to send Thomas a quick message. I could select his name, send him a quick message here. And I can send that directly here from the search bar. So if I'm working on a document within the main screen, I can quickly multitask and send a message from this space. And we can go back over to chat, and we can see that that message was sent. So again, the search bar is a fantastic resource to utilize. And then in the top right-hand corner, where you see your profile icon, this is where you can adjust some of your personal settings. The first option that we'll notice is we'll see these icons that have been next to our profile icon throughout the experience today. And this is something known as your presence, indicating availability. So the green check mark indicates that that individual is available at that time. You'll also see this red circle indicating that that individual is in a meeting or in a call, or that they are busy and that time is blocked off. If we see the red circle with a line through it, that indicates that they're on Do Not Disturb. So they're likely in something very important where they're presenting. So they will not be notified unless that message was urgent. They'll still be able to reference that information afterwards. They just won't be disturbed during their presentation. And then the next option we'll see is this yellow clock icon. And this will indicate that that individual is away. So maybe they're on lunch, maybe they're done for the day. It's important to keep these icons in mind for the presence that you're portraying based on your availability. And it's also good to keep these in mind to see if it's a good time to reach out to that team member. For those that are power users, there is a space for keyboard shortcuts. So if this is something that interests you, I would definitely recommend to take a few minutes to look at this for quick navigation tools that are available. One that I often like to utilize is Control-Shift-M is a quick way to toggle on and off of mute, but there are quite a few other choices. So again, if that's something that interests you, the profile icon, and then the fifth option down is keyboard shortcuts. For your personal settings, there is a gear icon. And within this space, you can adjust aspects such as your theme. Throughout the experience today, we've been using the default theme. A lot of people are a very big fan of dark mode, which is a little bit easier on the eyes, if that's what you prefer. And something that I love about Microsoft is the priority on accessibility and diversity inclusion. That's kept top of mind with Microsoft Teams as well. So high contrast is available from an accessibility standpoint. And as we were showing before, this is where you can adjust your personal notifications. There are varying beliefs on information. Some want to be notified and informed about everything. Others want to only be informed when it's relevant for them. So I really would encourage to take a few minutes to make sure that these settings match your personal preference. Banner is the purple icon that you'll see in the bottom right-hand corner. Feed means that you'll see that within your activity feed. And then the great thing with this, especially differing this from your CDR account, is if you choose to say banner and email, and you're maybe just starting to use Teams, it would mean that you'd receive an email indicating that you've been mentioned within a post. So definitely would encourage to make sure these settings match your preference and take just a few minutes to customize this further. And I know we have covered quite a bit of content, so I do want to take one last pause. Thomas, were there any questions on anything that we've covered so far today?
Hey, Luke, yes, there is one request for a demo. They would like to see how to hide and unhide chats.
Great question. I can definitely show that real quick here. So if you go to a chat conversation, and let's say we'll go to this one right here. If I were to press the ellipses, the fourth option down is hide. And again, it doesn't delete that conversation for everyone involved. It just would hide it from your visual real estate here. So I'll press that, and we'll see that that team is no longer visible, or that conversation is no longer visible within this list. And Thomas, feel free if you would like to add additional clarity to that question.
Nope, that was perfect, Luke. Thank you very much. You can continue from here.
Thank you, Thomas, and thank you everyone for the participation. I know we covered quite a bit today. And one thing that I want to point out that's a resource built into the client is in the bottom left-hand corner, there's a question mark. And I know it's a novel idea, but the help button is actually quite helpful. Within this space, you'll see topic-specific information. So maybe if you wanted to circle back and learn a little bit more about meetings, there are quick sentences, there's pictures, and also short videos that are 1 to 2 minutes long to learn more about a particular topic. And in addition to these resources, as Sharon mentioned at the top of the call, there is a Champions Network that's being built out. So if Teams is really something that excites you and interests you, I would definitely look into becoming a champion and really being that support for your organization. In addition to that, if you would like to have that additional support, as the Champions Network is built out, look for your local champions as a resource. And I would highly encourage for those that are in a leadership position, really to build that muscle of utilizing Teams for communication. It's not going to solve the problem of people not checking their emails or text messages, but if all of the information is together in one place, it streamlines those workflows. Teams has truly transformed the way that I work, and I promise if you give it a chance, it will do the same for you. And thank you again, everyone, for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you in a future session. Sharon, I'll go ahead and pass it back to you.
Thank you, Luke. Really appreciate that. That was a great session. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We appreciate your time today, and we hope that you've benefited from the information that was shared. We look forward to supporting you and to hearing more about your experience with Teams. The Q&A window will remain open for a few more minutes for any last-minute questions that you may have. Enjoy the rest of your day, and let us know how things are going. Take care.